morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome wherever you are. This is the next Mussel app training video. Today we're going to talk about tasks. Every company, whether it's agriculture, aquaculture, or anything else, it's very important to maximize your resources in order to optimize your performance of your operations. The best way to do that is to not only manage your tasks and manage your stuff, but also automate some of them in order to make sure that they're not forgotten. So let me run you through of what we do in terms of task management and how you can improve your performance by managing your company. So if you go to calendar, this is a generic view of all of the tasks, whether they're historical or future ones. And you can see everything starting from anything that is any action that actually happened on the farm, whether it's an assessment or harvest or floating, all the way to the tasks that are actually assigned and manually created, like the ones here, test ones that are completed. So if I go back a little bit back to October, you can see that, for instance, 10th of October, we can see how many floats we added to each line. We can see that there was a couple of harvests in the beginning of October. So we have the whole overview, daily overview of our operations. We also see, like in here, 13th, 14th, 15th, we have a break. There is no tasks. We can see whether there is any weather event. The wind was a little bit stronger. It wasn't too bad, but it was a little bit stronger in here, and perhaps that's why there is no action. So we do that per farm. Each of the farms have remembered the weather information, including the rain, temperature, so you can view that historically. Important also elements in here. If we go to today, click here. Today is the 8th. If we go to the day view, we'll see there is a lot of tasks. Now, the concept in here is if you schedule a task, and assessments are tasks that are automated, by default, they every 90 days. You can obviously change it. But if the task is created in a system, then we won't allow you to forget about it. If the task is in the system and it's not marked as done, it will continuously move to today and it will always be on today. Now, this is a demo system. We obviously haven't done assessments for a while. Therefore, a lot of assessments are piling up here to do because they're all 90 days or older. There's also a couple of other tasks that are scheduled in here. So this is our daily view. We can navigate in here. This is tomorrow. This is the day after tomorrow. You have a date, 10th of January, Wednesday. And we have week view as well, just to make it better for the planning. Now, let's just create a simple task to understand how it works. We can create it in two ways. We can create it in here on Add Task on the top, or if you go day view, week view, or even month view, you can schedule it. Let's say that you want something on Friday, you can just click in here, and it automatically will pre-fill the date for you, so you don't have to select it. We also have in here information that we're scheduling task. It's just for the clarity, so that you don't make any mistakes. So if you put it in a past, it will inform you that you're actually reporting a task in the past, which is absolutely fine. As long as you're aware of that, the system will tell you. So, and next Friday, we just want to say a task is, can you please add two floats to line 7A. Let's say 7A. They say make sure they. So let's find line 7A. I just made up the number, so hopefully there is one. It's a demo account. And here is the magic. So, and here is this, for us, it's a maintenance. Actually, sorry, it's a, it's a maintenance. And what's going to happen is if I click confirm, anybody who's currently on Mussel Boat 1 and have a Mussel app installed, or what we call a skipper app, mobile application, have installed on their phone, they will get a notification, kind of like a text message saying, hey, you got a new task to perform. It might sound like a lot of work because every time you create a task, you kind of need to select the farm, select the line, select the type. It just does sound like a lot of work, doesn't it? But if you think about it, people on the farm, on the boat, or physically on the farm, they always have hands full. They're always busy. They always have stuff to do. The last thing you want is to add extra work for them. Our goal in here is the more work you're going to do in an office, the less work your staff on the farm has to report the data accurately. So in this case, if you create a task like this, all they'll have on the app is a task on line 7a. They just have to click on it and say, yep, it's done. Nothing else. They don't have to select the farm. They don't have to search for line 7a. They just have to say, I'm currently doing the task, this task, and they can track the time. They can say I started. Once they finish, they just press OK, and it's done. So when I confirm this task appears on Friday in here, we can edit it, click edit. We can delete it if we made a mistake. We do have a boats color coded as well. So if we have multiple boats, it will show different colors in here. So we have the whole overview of our operations. And then we can complete it. We can complete it from here as well. Yep, it's done. We agree it's completed. Great, it's done. Now, this is the basic understanding of tasks. It just works pretty much on the same way as you would do on a daily basis. You just tell your staff what to do. Here is a couple of things where your performance can be optimized. Automation is one of the things where you know that the tasks are appearing in specific conditions and they're repeatable. And there is a couple of examples in here already. So in here we have automation. If the harvest is completed, then one day after, just create a task to prep the line. Now, what is going to happen is anytime that your boat, your skipper goes to the farm, does the harvest, when they finish, they automatically on that line, the task will appear. It will schedule for a day after harvest, and the title of the task will be prep the line. This will allow you to create the tasks that are repeatable and they shouldn't be forgotten. Another good example is in here. So if seed is planted on the line, then 1 week after, create an assessment task. Why? Well, in our system, it's obviously customizable, but by default, we ask you to assess the line every 90 days. If you do it every 90 days, then you see the best overview of your farm and you can spot the issues at optimal time. However, in some circumstances, and seeding is one of them, it's worth checking your line earlier than in 90 days. Checking whether, for instance, snapper ate your spat, whether you have biofouling. If you have a stocking on a line, a lot of things can attach to it. It's sometimes easier to check it earlier and spot the issues as soon as possible. So in this case, if the seed is planted, 1 week after, automatically a task is going to be created. So let's create another one just so we see how it works. We want to see, let's say, a regular task. So it doesn't have, actually assessment is probably a good one. If we let's actually harvest. So let's say that every time we harvest, and we only want to have full harvest or partial harvest. The difference is the full harvest is when you finish and the line is empty. The partial harvest, it means that any harvest that you do is triggering the task. So we say that we want any harvest, actually any type of harvest, and we want to say 0 days. So on the same day, we're just going to say bring the floats back to the yard. Floats on the line. So what's going to happen is the moment someone's going to start to harvest, automatically, literally within seconds, the task will appear on the system and it will say, hey, bring your floats back to the yard. Don't forget to bring, because some of the boats will be so busy they will leave the floats on the backbone. They won't untie them. The floats will be, unnecessary in the water. They're prone to being taken away by the bad weather because they're not submerged. So they just didn't have time to take them. But if you create a task like that, automatically, the moment they say, yep, I've done a harvest, the task will pop up and say, hey, make sure you bring your float back. So that's one of the really cool things about your optimizing your tasks. Here is another one. It's the new year currently. It's beginning of January. We come back from holidays and we wonder, well, what should we do? Should we do some assessments? Wonder what's the best way to work, to do the work today. So we do have a little tab in here, things to do. And it gives you an entire summary of what should be done on your farm. Now, this is a summary of all of your tasks that you planned in the future. So we've created a harvest, I believe. No, it was floating, sorry. Floating. So all of the tasks that we created, we scheduled are in here. So you can run through them. But then you think, okay, well, but I don't have planned tasks. And it's important to understand that this is an early stage of prediction algorithm. However, we do give you some suggestions. So you currently have 24 lines on Farm Kanepuru that require assessment. You have 18 lines on Portage and 16 lines on Media Bay. So it gives you ability to run through your entire operations and say, okay, well, maybe I should do an assessment because I have 58 lines that require assessment. So you can easily do what you can easily do. You can just create, okay, well, I have time to do 11 lines today. You have the system will pick up automatically the lines alphabetically. You click accept. You pick a boat. You press the date. I want to say the 10th, and the system will automatically create 11 separate tasks on that boat on that day to do an assessment. Similarly, it's the same with seeding. Harvest is relatively easy. The harvest is essentially based on your team marking the lines as ready to harvest. And we know that there are 2 lines ready to harvest. The system suggests that one of those lines should be harvested. It picks it up based on the age of the crop. Obviously, the longer they're in the water, the quality can drop. So the best one is to harvest the ones that are the longest in the water first. Then we have the maintenance. This is something we're working on, but seeding, here's where the magic happens. What the system does is to run through entire history. And this won't work on early stage Mussel app users, because it requires certain amount of information in order to do the prediction. However, if you have enough history, what the system does is scans your entire system in terms of harvests, assessments, intermediate harvests, final harvests, and seeding. Then it calculates what are your stages. And then if you do 2 reseedings, it will calculate at an average what your reseedings are. So let's say that you have 3 stages of mussel farming. You do 2 reseeding. Your reseeding is on 20 mils and on 50 mils. The system will detect it without your input. It will detect that you approximately harvest on 20 mils and then you reseed it, another time on 50 mils and then you reseed it. It will find the line that is closest to those reseeding elements and then run through the history of where that line was reseeded in the past and when it performed best. And based on that, all of that, the algorithm, it tells you in here, based on the history, we suggest you harvest line 1A on farm Portage, and you move it to farm Kanapuru, so a different farm, and line 8A. This is all based on the history. Obviously, the more data, the longer you use Mussel app, the information are going to be better. And that's where also the magic happens with floating. Having all the information with the history of your harvest, history of your floating, history of your assessments, we're able to predict roughly what is the current weight of your line. Combined with the amount of floats that you currently have on your farm and the average history of your floats during the harvest, we can calculate what's the average weight per float that the float can handle and predict of how many floats you need. This is obviously, again, early stages of predictions on forecasting, but you can sort it by the most important, most urgent elements. So you're obviously not looking at one float that system suggested at one float because it's not really a big issue. But when a system suggests to you 8 floats, then you're thinking, okay, well, I have 3. The tonnage is approximately 5 ton based on the history. I probably need to go and add some floats. So on the same basis, you convert it to the task, you click that element, that button, and assign it to the boat, and that was going to convert it to a floating job. So in general, it's important to communicate with we think it's very important to communicate with your staff through task management system, because the more tasks you have, the more history you maintain, the better it is to predict later on where the gaps are in performance and how to optimize your operations in order to create a better company profit. That's it for today. Thank you for staying with us. Today's video is a little bit longer, but we all survived. As always, if you have any questions, flick us an email, and we're happy to help you.